You're listening to Drawing on Hope, where we talk to inspiring people who'll paint for us their vision of a better world. I'm Albert Orr, co-founder of Pushpin, a social impact creative agency that uses drawings and stories to help make things make sense. Jenica Bukaw of Forging Intersectional Feminist Futures is joining me again as co-host as we speak to our guest, Ria Landini. Ria is a digital marketer and director of communications at Lunas Collective, a volunteer-powered online chat helpline and care space for women and the LGBTQIA+ community who experience gender-based violence or have sexual and reproductive health concerns. Over the next hour, we talk about the origins of Lunas Collective as a response to the rise in gender-based violence during the pandemic, the importance of collective care, and the impact of safe spaces and storytelling in healing, as well as the principles of care that guide their work. Let's get right to it.
So, hello, I am Ria Landinian, the Communications Director at Lunas Collective. Right now, it's really the Women's Month. It's one of our 3 busiest periods in Lunas Collective. So, of course, Women's Month, the celebration, we participate and collaborate with organizations more in events within the month. So, a lot of, from my end, in terms of the communication side, it's really a lot of day-to-day coordination within the team, within the volunteers, and then at the same time with our partner organizations. So this is actually the busiest Women's Month that we've had in the 5 years of Lunas.
May jargon question na ako, Ria, para moving forward. I know rin how to use the proper language. Pero I know kasi that you do a lot of work with people who experience gender-based violence, di ba? Ang current language ba is, do we use, kasi victims sila ng gender-based violence? They're survivors ng gender-based violence? Like, what's the language that you use sa Lunas Collective?
Okay, in Lunas, it's definitely more leaning towards survivors. Actually, when we started, it was more victim survivors, but we started transitioning to just saying
Victim survivors as in compound word siya?
Meaning victim, the survivors, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's mainly, for now, it's really survivors. But in some occasions, we also refer to them as storytellers because we are coming from a place wherein, the person we're talking to or reaching out to Lunas Collective or we are communicating with in general might not be comfortable, referring or identifying as survivors or as victims. So, coming from a place of providing psychosocial feminist care, we try to look at it as they are storytellers. They have stories to tell, and they are sharing those stories with our space because they feel that this space will help them, will listen to them, and try to understand them based on how they want to tell their story. And in return, of course, Lunas is coming from a place of nurturing or affirming that they should not have gone through those things, those vulnerabilities. And what we do, basically, especially in the chat helpline or in our in-person sharing circles, is that Lunas Collective is just helping the people navigate their respective stories. Because the idea that they are storytellers or they are survivors is that, at this point, they're sharing with us whatever vulnerabilities or situations they have experienced, lived through, or survived in a way. And we accept or receive those stories, that trust, those things, and we help them make sense of it. Like, we're not in the place to impose or suggest that, hey, it's time to report that, it's time to resolve that. So that's where the idea of survivors slash storytellers is coming from.
what's the impact of that when you hold space for these people to shape and tell their own stories? Like what happens to them or what happens to
Sure. Yeah.
the collective?
In terms of impact, it it's really validating for both Lunas Collective and for the most part the people, because we have been getting this feedback actually repetitively that they feel safer and heard whenever we approach them or treat them as storytellers or as survivors, because one way or another, I am sure there have been situations wherein we are the more marginalized or more like less of power. So, like, when we come together in Lunas Collective, there is the power dynamics does not exist. Basically, like we come from a place that we are your friend or we are a safe space in general, and when we put together or we invite people together in sharing circles or in our events in our spaces, so it's a mix of survivors, storytellers, allies, and advocates. So some of these people may not have experienced violence per se, but they have experienced some sort of vulnerability in the form of discrimination or judgment coming because of their sexuality, because of their sexual orientation, their gender, and so on. So, and I guess the effort from our end, especially from the team of our chat helpline and those volunteers who facilitate these sharing circles, is that they really put into practice the feminist care or the psychosocial care as first response to these vulnerabilities. Lunas Collective is really that space where we are trying to train and continuously learn how to facilitate sense making, how to facilitate navigating such vulnerabilities without being imposing or without being know it all, so to speak. So we always learn together with the people we work with or who attend our events or go to our chat helpline. And I guess if there's anything at the core of Lunas Collective, it's really that care as a principle or as as the main driver of what we do. We always come from that level of being suggestive and promoting that navigating this journey is really a collective effort, but it's really, giving back that power to the person who experienced vulnerabilities, the survivor, or the storyteller, is the one we want to give back the power to. So in whatever form, whether it's chat helpline, it's joining as a volunteer, it's working with us for events, for organizing events, or being part of the sharing circles as a participant. I think giving back that power and then making sure that this space remains safe for everyone, and being really mindful of how we also connect with external organizations or parties. That's really the effort that's being put in making sure this remains a safe space for 5 years now, and then like hopefully longer.
I'm curious kasi Ria talked about how the people in the space come to Luna's Collective. So I'm curious, like, what brought you to Luna's Collective?
Okay, so just for context first, so ever since I started working over a decade ago, I've been in the advertising and then communications and marketing field. So I've worked with brands, from an agency perspective, and then now I'm with a brand. So it has always been just communications, marketing, digital marketing strategy, and there have been little to no opportunities to work on advocacies that I guess like really resonate a lot with us. And back then, I didn't know what I really wanted or how I could get into these spaces. Like I've known of the LGBT orgs, I've known of women's orgs, and I also studied at the University of the Philippines. So there have been a lot of exposure to different advocacies or movements. Definitely, even my parents were part of the movement back then in college, like the student council during the martial law period, or like yeah, so around that time, and they were really active in the student council and even the university newspaper. So I've always had it in me that I've been around people that are doing things beyond their daily, and and I guess this is all the context. I've always yeah, and I've always wanted to be part of something that's like this, but it was never really clear how or why or which orgs or which area exactly. And I reached 30 without really like being involved as much. So when the pandemic hit, I went back to our place in Quezon City, our house, the family house. And I learned that this certain friend and I live near each other. Our houses were walking distance from each other. So at one point we decided to catch up, like, when the lockdown was easing somehow around, I think, October of 2020, around that time. We decided to catch up, have drinks, and she's the founder of Luna's Collective. So
Ah.
Sabrina Gakad, the founder and director of Luna's Collective, is that person. And I was talking about my work. She was telling me about Luna's Collective and all. At that point, Lunas was already like 5, 6 months operational. And at that time, she was already able to secure some level of funding that included budget for Facebook ads to really generate or drive traffic to the helpline. And that's what I have been doing. I mean, that's part of what I have been doing in my work, in my line of work. So, yeah, and then that was what initially brought me to Luna's Collective. And that catch up led to like, hey, you could be part of Luna's Collective. And back then, and then that followed with like, of course, an onboarding. And during onboarding, I thought like I was going to volunteer, and that was like all well and good. That was more than enough for me to have a foot in the door, so to speak, like learn about this advocacy, learn about this, and it's within a digital platform that I'm familiar with, and they had to work with our partner organization for content and things like that. So I was really learning a lot from them, but the bonus was she offered me like a contract and I was gonna get paid for it. So like it was like back then, like it was really a win-win. It was initially for 6 months. It was a small team. The core team back then was just a few people, um, and then and then like it became 6 months, and then we secured more funding. The operations slowly grew, and it was really through learning by doing, and then like realizing a lot of time has already passed, that things have kind of turned 360, that I am adjusting my work and other career related setups or priorities to how I'm able to really allocate time, headspace, and heart space for Luna's Collective.
I love that you started out wanting to give to the organization, and then they ended up giving back to you as well in so many other ways. For for those who are not familiar with Luna's Collective, how do you introduce what the org is all about and what do you do?
Luna's Collective is a care space that caters to women and people of diverse sexualities who need someone to talk to when it comes to their experiences of vulnerabilities, like gender based violence or discrimination based on their gender, their sexuality, and those who need or want to know more about sexual and reproductive health. Yeah, Lunas Collective is that kind of space. And we're able to talk to people through the chat helpline that we have on Facebook, on Messenger. So people can go there, talk about their vulnerabilities, talk about their experiences of, yeah, again, these gender based violence and discrimination, or ask about the concerns about sexual and reproductive health. Um, we come from a place of care again as a care space because in Luna's Collective, we believe that care is the first response to these vulnerabilities. We try to recognize that hey, so not everyone is ready to report right away and tell their story in a way that this will be documented and all. Some are still making sense of what they experienced. Some are still trying to figure out what it was that really happened to them, or like how maybe their circles would say that or shrug off what they went through or how they felt about a certain situation. So in Luna's Collective, we try to validate and really communicate that what they felt is valid. If they felt that something was off, something made them uncomfortable, that should be fine and that's valid. No one should tell you otherwise. And Luna's kind of care comes from that perspective.
When you were first brought in to generate interest and usage of the helpline, around that time it was the pandemic, and we've seen a rise in gender-based violence at that time. And so I understand the need for something like Luna's Collective. But maybe you can share with us as well, what were some of the attitudes that you've observed when it comes to seeking help? I mean, is that a case of, oh, I've been looking for help, thank goodness there's Lunas, or is it, I did you even have to have a more preliminary hurdle to overcome where they wouldn't even think to seek help in the first place? I mean, can you tell us a bit more about what that looked like for you?
So when Sabrina founded Lunas at the height of pandemic, so March 2020, to her words, it was an experiment. Like we recognized that there were more cases of gender-based violence or VAUCIPA, because as much as we were being told to stay safe at home, ironically there are homes that are not safe, and people could not easily go out, like, diba, parang may parang bawal talaga tayo lumabas, like we had a curfew and all. So without that mechanism to go out and go to the women's and gender desk in the barangay level, or in this, or kung saan ka usually pwede mag-report or lumapit, like nawala yun, or it wasn't as accessible already at the time. So being very strategic, like Sabrina and the initial set of volunteers and her feminist godmothers decided to go to Facebook because, again, with the context of Philippines, Facebook is accessible. Like most, if not all of us, have a Facebook account, and some telcos even provide free data, so we could access the platforms, right? So it was an experiment for them to see if we provide like a chat service catering to people who, number one, need someone to talk to about their experience of vulnerabilities during this very vulnerable time. Will people actually message? The people who go to the helpline come from different contexts. Some are already sure of what help they need. Like, they just reach out and ask, saan ako pwedeng mag-complain? Or saan ako pwedeng check up or something? Saan pwedeng mag-book ng counselor if I want psychosocial support? But some people just share their thoughts, their emotions, because they just need someone to talk to. So in terms of generating demand, parang we were able to see over time that people seek help at different phases of what it is that they are experiencing. And again, some people go to the helpline on behalf of a friend, on behalf of a relative, because they want to help someone. Um, yeah, that's yeah. In terms of attitudes, yeah. So it's really people coming at different points in their journey. So again, like yeah, some just really want someone to talk to and make sense of what happened, whether it's now or like years ago. So yeah, and if actually there are some reviews or like helpline feedback that we receive wherein people would say, ang tagal ko nang gusto magkwento. Thank you, Lunas, for being there as a safe space. Or people who say that hindi ko to makwento in this way to my peers because of the fear of being judged. So, in a way, technically kasi when you talk to Lunas, you're just talking to the page, diba? Our volunteers would introduce themselves like either using an avatar name or their actual name. But when you reach out to the helpline, we'd say like, "Hi, ako si ganito. Kamusta ka?" And then the prompts are the usual. So you don't exactly know who that person is. You don't see their picture because you see the Lunas logo in the chat. But somehow, I guess the way the messages are crafted or the way our volunteers exude that warmth or that safety again, some people are, yeah, really feel that it's a safe space to tell your story. So yeah, and again with the usual, and then with the people who are more aware already of what next step they want to do, Lunas would still provide that level of warmth or affirmation, but at the same time will also be helpful in terms of how we could refer you if what you're looking for is already beyond what we can do within the helpline. So yeah, and then I guess like over time, I mean there our helpline messages count really also vary depends on um, the promotion that we're doing. But what's sure is that in terms of topics, almost 50% of what we receive are related to gender based violence. And then next to that would be, the sexual health or reproductive health. And then followed by topics related to mental health and legal concerns.
Thanks, Ria. I definitely would have appreciated if Luna's Collective was present 10 years ago. I would have sought that support. So I'm glad that, it's something that started as an experiment at the height of the pandemic and it has bloomed into this baby organization.
I want to dive into the nuances of how Lunas defines care. Because care can show up in different ways. But what are some of the key principles of care that you share with your staff, with your volunteers, so that they can be enabled to hold that safe space for the people you help?
The care that Lunas shares, or when we say share the care with people who come to the space or who collaborate with us, it's really, provide provide that safety for people who have experiences of gender-based violence and um, are quite hesitant to know more about certain areas of sexual and reproductive health that might be taboo in the general public. So we actually, are guided by five, feminist care principles, and as we go through it, I guess like it would make more sense. So the five feminist care principles that we really put into practice or learn and then put into practice is first is listen. So listen is basically providing that um, providing that ear or being that sounding board to people who are telling their stories, who are sharing their stories, or who trust us with their stories. Um, Intentionally listening to us is really important because it removes that level of possible implied judgment or the worry from the storyteller to tell their story because they might be judged. And then the second principle for us is understand. So it's really um, keeping the narrative based on how they told their story and ask questions based on how they said things. So um yeah, when we say understand, we really try to put that into practice by asking back or asking questions, not to probe, not to judge, not to say things like, bakit? Or, o tapos. We try to avoid those as much as possible and focus on just understanding what they mean by what they said. So when you said, nakagaan ng loob, something like that, we try to ask based on that wording, like paano or ano yung nakagaan ng loob, things like that. So that kind of conversational approach really helps us understand more, and in turn, the storyteller is able to really claim the power in that story, based on how they're, kumbaga, um, how they're telling their story to our space. And then third principle for us is nurture. So this goes for both the storytellers, the survivors and participants, and our volunteers, advocates, and team. So we have regular care sessions talaga. As in, regardless of funding, regardless of, busy schedules, we make it a point that in a year, one priority of Lunes is to have care sessions. And these could be really simple get-togethers, but at the same time, via chat helpline, we try to practice nurture in a way that we affirm the people's stories. So for the storytellers, it's to affirm them that their story is valid. They should not have experienced what they experienced because that is unjust. That is not right. It is not their fault that they experienced that. Again, with the narrative that it's not what you wore, it's not what you were wearing at that time, it's not because you like doing so and so, that's why you should be judged, or you experienced harm and things like that. So, and then when it comes to the care activities, it's really making sure that volunteers and people who are doing care work, so whether they're part of Lunas or people from other organizations who also provide care to other people, when they come to Lunas, what's important is they also know that they also deserve that level of care. Like the care workers or the carers should also be taken care of. And in Lunas Collective, we try to make sense, of our our being tired, our being overwhelmed with fun care activities. So these range from writing workshops to doing hike together or forest bathing together or enjoying new things all together. Um, yeah, that's how we try to nurture both, people who come to the space and trust us with the stories and people who help make this action or this movement happen. The fourth one is autonomy and action plan. So this is where the giving back of power to the storyteller comes in also. So autonomy, we recognize that the person telling the story has their own agency to sort out what they are going through, what they are feeling. So we are coming from a place that we can help them identify an action plan. Like, what do you want to do, or how do you want to navigate this? How can we be of help? Um, so we try to make sense of that and really find ways like and check if these people have a confidant or a friend to go to, or like a family member that they can trust or also run to, and like suggest in a way that they are not alone, and let's figure it out together. But at the end of the day, it's their decision, it's their autonomy, and in a way, what we're trying to communicate is that, hey, we are here to somehow sort out you realizing that that power should be claimed by you, and you have that power within you. So we believe in you. So in terms of how we say it, it's basically like that. And then lastly, it's safety and social support. So of course, some people would go to the helpline, especially, and ask if we could, help figure out an exit for someone in a household that is unsafe. But of course, that's something that we are not able to provide or give at the moment. So this is where our referral system comes in. So in Lunas Collective, being the young organization that it is, and the limited capacity that we have, our referral system is really what makes us. It's really part of what enables us to do what we do. By social support, we also make sure that we are aligned or connected with our partner organizations whom we refer storytellers or service users to. So when someone needs, when someone really needs a mental health professional already, and our volunteer um, counselors are not available at this time, we'd refer them to where they could possibly get that service. Same goes with sexual and reproductive health concerns. So there are people who might just want to get their implant or to ask more or know more about sexual health related concerns. We'd always refer them to the likes of Likhaan, the Women's Health Clinic, that could provide such services or could provide more information or further information. And then, of course, we also work closely with the likes of the Commission on Human Rights if there are people who might want to or are ready to report certain incidents or cases. Yeah. So, yeah. And then the safety would always come in also in terms of practice. I guess even in the operations of Lunas Collective, when we get data from people in the chat helpline and in our events, we make sure that these are, of course, kept in private and safe. And especially when it comes to say the service users on the chat helpline, we make sure that we are able to identify them without having to record or keep their names. So whether they're using an anonymous account on Facebook, on Instagram, we make sure that on our end there is that effort to generate some sort of user code or ID based on info that they are willing to provide. And that is the only thing that we are keeping to attribute to certain, demographics, for learning purposes, like making sure that, hey, a lot of people from the younger age demographic are reaching out. What's the deal or what's happening? So yeah, and then when it comes to events also, as far as the communications effort is concerned, in Luna's events, it's a non-negotiable for people doing photo video for Lunas to know or to get briefed that people who are wearing red laces cannot be included in photos. Um, and then yeah, so basically we have that color coded consent laces. So when we release photos, everything you see on the videos and photos of Lunas Collective, there's that layer from our end to make sure that the only things released are those the people featured in those photos are those who gave consent to be included. So people wearing green laces are the ones there, and then people in the middle, those who are wearing black laces, get a copy of the photos they are included in, but are not for public use. So they are okay to be included, but only for reporting purposes or internal documentation purposes. And then the ones with red laces are definitely for whatever reason it is. We don't ask why, but we make sure that whenever they choose the red lace, our team would have to make sure, even if it means like editing the video again or going through another round of render, as long as there's that person wearing a red lace included and they are recognizable, we'd have to take out that clip. So it's that level of safety in terms of how we do things.
Well, thanks, Ria, for sharing the five principles now of Luna's Collective. So my question is like, why or how would you tell other people or organizations outside of Luna's Collective to also care about those principles?
I mean, I guess that it matters because that care in that context is basically like the way we are able to bring back or give back the the power to the person concerned. Like it's really being able to give back. I mean, sorry, like how in a lot of situations, like people put words in our mouths. People just tend to decide for us. The society would decide for us what's good, what's not, what's immoral, what's not. And having conversations around care as first response to our expression of our pleasures, care as first response to people sharing about their experiences of gender-based violence and discrimination because of their expression again. Um, it somehow changes the narrative that hey, um, we are not here to tell the story of others. We are not here to just force people to comply to certain institutional rules that could be harmful to their like overall well-being. If I were to put it like simply also, yung care in this context would really give back that power that supposedly the people expressing themselves, expressing their vulnerabilities, and trying to make sense of it would realize that, hey, I'm not alone. And collective action and collective care are definitely possible in this ideal world because in Lunas, we'd always say that we are here to co-create a world where people could live and love freely, regardless of their genders, regardless of what brings them joy. In the context naman of, say, um, workplaces or things like institutions, where we have all these rules, all these policies already in place, like care being injected in how we say deal with say a sexual harassment case in the workplace. If we are to be more careful with how we treat the situation without just getting the data out of it right away and really making sure that the well-being of the people involved in the case or in the situation are being so it somehow improves also the safety or the feeling safe of people involved. I mean, having that care injected in the way we're doing our things or how we're trying to improve our respective spaces, you know, could help like everyone feel safer and express themselves more.
Just my curiosity, kasi giving care in this way to survivors or the storytellers or whoever has experienced these vulnerabilities, as you said, I can imagine mabigat siya. And I know you have volunteers who support the helpline. You also mentioned na you also give care to those volunteers. But like, I guess I'm just trying to imagine how do you do that um, in a sustainable way na kabuo ang ginhawa?
Okay. So as far as yung operations of Lunas is concerned, yeah, we always say we are volunteer powered because yes, we are. The people like operating Lunas, kumbaga the core team is just composed of 7 people. But in terms of volunteers, yeah, first definitely we're really grateful that they really took the time, because our onboarding is not a one-off. Our onboarding includes readings, it includes videos, it includes several Zoom sessions to make sense of all those that we are asking them to read or watch asynchronously. Um, and so, first, in terms of the chat helpline, which is like the biggest volunteer-driven area of work, we make sure that they have limited hours only on the helpline in a week. So even if some people want to offer more of their time, we try to make sure that they only volunteer for a limited number of hours in a week to not overwhelm anyone. Because yes, like you said, some topics or some conversations might be heavy. Some people go to the helpline and really, detail their experiences or their thoughts that they are not able to share outside right away. So what we do is, yeah, first is making sure that the resources or the volunteers are really on the helpline for a limited time only. But at the same time, there's an agency for the volunteers to reach out to our own volunteer counselors if they want someone to talk to. And our helpline coordinator, Janine, actually also has that mechanism within their team. So anytime someone needs someone to talk to or wants to bounce off some thoughts about a certain service user, or sorry, we call people who go to the helpline as service users.
Mm.
So if there's a certain service user bringing a new kind of topic, so the volunteers together with Janine, our helpline coordinator, are able to make sense of it collectively, like as a team. So they have that level of, community within the helpline volunteer team. And ano ba ba? And then of course for our volunteers who do communications, or volunteers who also do event organizing for Lunas, we make sure that we are also very clear with what we are asking them to do, to avoid that gray area where everyone does everything and suddenly everyone gets overwhelmed. So yeah, and then ultimately, of course, care sessions again are available to volunteers. So yeah, and we always have this message to volunteers that anytime they feel that they want to opt out for a while, take a break from doing Luna's Collective volunteer work, it's totally fine. It's okay. We operate one Discord channel and another Facebook private group and Messenger where these volunteers, active or not, are connected to Lunas.
Mm.
So some who were active before tend to be active again after some time. So some of them take a break because they're busy with their postgraduate school. Some of them might be busy because it's just a busy period for their career or their academic, their school, their acads. So they take a break. But whenever they're ready or they have the capacity again to volunteer, they come back. And at any point that they want to participate at an event, they're always welcome. They usually get the first tips before we announce anything on public. So we announce that, hey, we're having this thing. And then we also have events that are internal or exclusive to volunteers. So when we have some sort of sense making, especially now that we're trying to explore creating modules for feminist care or consent, parang we try to engage them in different ways and capacities. And again, yung salo, so to speak, ng Salunas is that the the efforts like having psychosocial care for themselves is also available to those providing care work. And I guess going back to the question earlier also, parang in Lunas we value that we really want to say that even carers or people doing care work also deserve and need care. So it's a two-way thing that you provide care, but also, make sure you get that level of care as well. Because otherwise, people doing this important work, maubos tayo. Like,
Yeah.
you'd get burnt out. and you treat it as, that kind of job that you're just doing because you're doing, because you need to. But this thing kasi, especially if volunteer driven, you don't need to do it so you do it by choice. And as a space trying to run something like this, yeah, parang we want to make sure that no one gets burnt out in the volunteer circle. Like, we try to really be deliberate that, hey, you want to help, thank you, but at the same time, let's not overwhelm ourselves, because this whole this whole push for injecting care in our spaces, injecting mindfulness in how we treat vulnerabilities, is a long battle or is a long journey. We have a long journey ahead. And we want more people on board. But the more people we get, we don't want naman na may burn out, may aalis, may mawawala in the process because they got overwhelmed. So as much, we try to keep it a safe space again. Like, everyone is welcome to contribute what they can at the time that they're ready to do so. Yeah, ayun.
And I like how the way you're integrating care isn't just, I mean, you mentioned earlier there are hikes or there are
Yeah.
writing workshops or things that you want to explore, but it's not just that. That care should also be in the processes of your organization, na structural siya, systemic, because uh, I feel like the common problem that I see when people talk about like care is it's just that one-off event nga na okay mag-hike tayo but then pagbalik natin sa work kapagod. So I appreciate that you have those systems in place. Um, and sorry, I feel like you want to share something.
Me, I
Ah,
thought.
okay, yeah, I thought you wanted to say
Oh,
something.
yeah, I think that's also, I mean, now that we're talking about it this way, I think that's also the reason why yung question earlier, medyo, wala akong clear answer. Because, I guess there's no benchmark yet in terms of how do we insert care in our different spaces pa. Like, how some companies are doing their diversity, equity, inclusion policies and things like that. But it's still different company per company. There's no fixed, like, this is the framework, let's apply it. Wala pang ganon. And when it comes to like inducing care, at this point, honestly, like, we're still just exploring how can we bring this to workplaces? How can we bring this experience to, say, senior high school students? Like, yeah, I think yun yung, like, I mean, if you ask me how should digital marketing be induced in your campaign, like, easily, we have all the tactics already. We have benchmarks for it and things like that, diba? But if we're talking about like the practice of care or inserting care as part of the ecosystem of different sectors or organizations or industries, diba? Parang it's something simple, but it's quite not naman theoretical, but it's something that's not as tangible, kumbaga. That it's
Mm.
really a mindset. It's really something that we have principles, yes, in Lunas, but how do we make it relevant? Maybe that's something that I guess will be contextual as we try to talk to workplaces, because applying care, being care officers of a certain event, for example, like a summit of a certain, like, actually just 2 weeks ago, some of our volunteers with Janine, our helpline coordinator again, and our project officer, parang they served as care officers for the first Women Living with HIV Summit of the UN Women. So they were there to help facilitate the breakout sessions. And Lunas was tapped primarily because there's this way of Lunas in terms of facilitating sharing or storytelling. So in that context, the Lunas Feminist Care was applied to the sharing circles. And we were tapped by this, bigger institution because I guess they saw something in the way we facilitate. And in other events naman, like another event recently, like a sister organization had this feminist leadership summit, and Luna's Collective was also like the org that provided care officers. So anytime someone feels they need someone to talk to, or feel that they were feeling vulnerable because of something or whatever in that space, they had Lunas to go to. We had our booth. And they could go there. We have assigned care officers. So it's actually just recently that we're really putting the chat helpline practice into physical spaces, like having real people do chat helpline way of communication for people in private but big spaces like summits or workshops. So yeah, so if we scale it up further, like workplaces or bigger organizations, like it's something that hopefully in the coming months, it's something to that will become more tangible.
What do you imagine success would look like for Lunas in the future?
Success for Lunas, well, actually, in a very, very ideal world, and this is really extreme, um, in an ideal world, there won't be a need for Lunas anymore because we are
Mm.
all practicing consent and respect for our diverse pleasures and things that bring us joy. And our perspective is really already equal, or we recognize equity, and we are inclusive. Like basically collective care and collective action is already like a norm. So in the very extreme ideal world, there's no need for this space because the world is already that space, practicing collective care, collective action, and celebrating the diverse pleasures and joy of people. But in terms of the current context, I guess like as Lunas turns 5, the success or the biggest wins that we could have is really to be able to share that care, meaning more people could really just adapt or pick up the areas of work or care work that Lunas is doing, and like use them, practice them in their own respective spaces. Of course, we're always ready to collaborate, but at the end of the day, having care as first response to even just barcadas or friendships, and like really coming from that place wherein we're recognizing the power of the person we're talking to, and making sure that we give it back to them, or our mode is giving it back to them, not really claiming that we're more powerful so we'll help you. Like we're not saviors here. So if like more people really recognize that the mode is to share that, to be sharing that care to help people navigate their respective journeys, whether like it's something of vulnerability or something of like something more like in terms of kunyari, career progression or whatnot, like having that safety or being that safe space for these people, um, could be replicated by many more. Yeah, and again, the care for carers. Hopefully, like that's something that more institutions would realize na important, because whether you're an NGO or like the biggest corpo out there or anything in between, like yung, di ba, parang there's a lot of work to be done in our respective industries. And whatever it is that we're fighting for or advocating for, will really get burnt out, will really get overwhelmed. So maybe, care some way, somehow, when injected in the way we do things, we can do, more collective action more effectively in a safer space, being that safe space to each other. Yeah, so whether these things could be put into practice, into actual policies, company policies or practices of organizations, then I think that would make a difference. It's a small idea, but the effect that it has on the individual level. I don't know, like there have been a lot of moments na nagkaka-chills ka when someone would say ang laking deal nung care that you gave to them just by listening or just by providing that safe space. So, yun.
So you've shared a lot about what role individuals have in terms of making that future happen with collective care and collective action, creating safe spaces for everyone to live life to the fullest and with joy and with agency. And you've also talked about what role companies, organizations, institutions have in making that better future happen. Um, for anyone who might be listening to this conversation, what are some practical next steps that they can take if they want to get started on that journey?
So, to me, it starts, I mean, the most basic, I guess, is starting with self reflection, starting with inner work, because we cannot share the care with others if we're not doing it first for ourselves without knowing what makes us comfortable or what kind of work style is best for me or works best for me. Like if I'm not aware of what makes me me or how I'm able to care for myself, then like it might surface at one point when we start sharing the care or offering that care to others. Certain pleasures or certain joys really matter to me a lot. So if I'm not able to do these things because I'm accommodating this work, I'm accommodating this, this project, or I'm accommodating my partner, I'm accommodating my team, then even if you get to deliver, like you're like performing really well, at one point, it might go back to you. And then you realize like, ikaw yung mauubos. So, yeah, I guess like the inner work, I could not emphasize how important it is. And a lot of good things could stem from that inner work being done right. And care is definitely one of those. Like, and then when it comes to other people, listening is the first thing that you might want to do because again we don't know their story and they don't know our stories as much as we know it. So I guess as we do that, diba, in the process naman of how in Luna's context, how the mode is always to try to help the other person navigate their journey towards reclaiming their power or their story. It goes back to the person then. So we're able to help other people navigate that because we're also doing it for ourselves.
And so we're nearing the top of the hour. We
Okay.
still have a lot of questions we want to be able to ask. So I guess the way we can do this is we'll go through our on-point questions. It's like our lightning
Okay.
round, and we'll
Okay.
ask you to just briefly answer each one.
Okay.
So we'll start first by asking you what's one tool or app or resource that you can't do without.
Google Workspace. Sorry. Google Workspace.
What's your go-to self-care activity when work gets tough?
Recently, it's tennis, but ideally more hikes.
Nice. What's a book, movie, or podcast that has deeply inspired you?
For me, okay, super luma, Mighty Ducks trilogy. When I was a kid, I played ice hockey and then varsity basketball. So ever since, parang yung whole experience of being part of sports team or a varsity team, really, yung lessons from that, the experience from that really resonated a lot with me. And until now, I think, because of that experience or growing up with that as my personality. Kasi at one point, yun talaga yung big deal for me, sports. I think, that all those principles from having experienced like team sports. Super big deal to me until now.
Who's a change maker or leader that you admire?
Not to be political, but in the context of the Philippines, Lenny Robredo.
What's one thing that you wish more people understood about your cause?
It's not as complicated to take part in the things that you feel strongly about, like advocacies. If I had to like briefly emphasize on that, yun nga, me coming from advertising and marketing, I always had this notion that there should be a prerequisite to be able to work with civil society organizations or like just being part of development work altogether. And suddenly with spaces like Lunas Collective wherein it's inclusive and like collaborative in nature, there's always gonna be something about your expertise or your experience that the movement or the advocacy that you really feel strongly about would need or would be a nice addition to that movement or that organization. So I hope like more people would realize that it just takes, that moment of risk, if you want to call
Mm.
it that, to start exploring what you can do more of with organizations that are really having these sustainable efforts. So it doesn't have to be one off. It could also be one off depending on availability. But sorry, yun lang. Parang it's just believing that it's less complicated than it might be in our heads before we actually do it.
What's a small act of care that made a big impact on you?
Love language ko kasi ang acts of service eh. So, like, for me, offering help offering help, whether it's in the form of actual output or like bouncing off ideas lang over coffee or whatnot, that level of care about things that I care about really has been making a difference. Whether it's in the context of Lunas or workplace or even friends. Like some friends asking about Lunas over coffee and me having that space where they're listening and finding ways to contribute also. Like those things really make a difference on me. So yeah.
In one word, how would you describe the future that you're working toward?
Collective.
And then finally, like, what do you want audiences or listeners to take away from this conversation we had today?
Is that collective care would really go a long way. And yung inner work, sorry, that's okay. So, is that collective care would really go a long way. And that starts with ourselves. But as we do it together, like for ourselves, but also together and having fun in the process, like celebrating what we enjoy together, um, could really make a difference, could go a long way. It could impact both, of course, our own respective wellness and well being, but also bigger organizations or institutions and spaces we are part of. So, again, and with collective care comes that collective action. And yung action na yun, all our contributions, walang big, walang small, like every kind of care work is important. And we all deserve that care as well. So, yeah.
Right. And how can people stay connected with you or learn more about Luna's Collective?
Okay, so, well, Lunas Collective is on Facebook and Instagram. So we are Lunas Collective there. And then we also have a website. So it's lunascollective.org. But in terms of taking part, so we are always open to collaborations. So whether it's for the care work or it's for education and training, Lunas Collective can collaborate with different individuals and organizations. And yeah.
Thanks, Ria.
Ayan,
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks,
Sorry,
Ria.
nag-overtime tayo. Sorry.
No, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining our conversation and for sharing with us about Lunas Collective. Salamat.
Thank you also, Jen and Albert.
Drawing on Hope is a podcast by Pushpin, a social impact design agency that uses drawings and stories to help make things make sense. Follow us at Pushpin Visuals on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, or visit www.pushpinvisuals.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, hope isn't something we wait for, it's something we create.